Well, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Scabagon, my hometown. In today's Second Part Sunday, the Squids wrap up their conversation with Jeremy Allen Gould and talk about TomCon and discuss the ideas of a podcast stage at Furnace Fest. They venture into community appreciation and dive into some voicemails about comedy and the 7 nips of the apocalypse.
Now, how do we make sure you're at Furnace Fest this year? Like, how do we
Bro,
solve this conundrum?
it's gonna need to be like probably Strong Arm Reunion, which I don't think is happening. But
that's an unreasonable bar. We can't produce a unicorn.
Listen, I want to go in theory. I just am like, I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to the TomCon. You heard about that, right?
Oh yeah.
So Mikey asked me to be a moderator. So I'm going to that, and then granted, it's not going to be like it's going to be 2 days, I think, maybe a full day. I'm not sure exactly
what do you know about, like, that you're allowed to say about that? Because like there's just that announcement, right? So is it a music festival? Like, is it?
No, it's going to be like a Comic-Con vibe, where artists are there, and they'll have a panel, and there'll be music performances. I know that.
Okay.
And Mikey, there's a spreadsheet he sent me of artists that he's talking to. To be honest with you, don't know specifically who has signed up and who hasn't, but I know who he's talked to.
Sure.
And it's really cool. It's gonna be awesome. Hopefully, if he gets everyone that I don't think he's gonna be able to get everyone on that list, but a good portion of them at least. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I was honored that he even asked me to be a part of it. He was supposed to call me Monday, and I'm just like really excited for him because I feel like it's kind of one of those things, like, I'm surprised this hasn't happened already. I think it definitely is going to be special, and it's kind of similar to the box set. He's like, I don't know how it's going to do, and I'm like, I think this will do really well, honestly. Like, I feel like if you make it extremely special, extremely rare, a limited amount of people, I think it will pay for itself, if it will, or break even at least. So yeah, I don't know, like I said, I don't know the specifics in terms of who he's gotten, but I know a lot of who he's talked to, and it's exciting. I'll just say that.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
There's too many festivals. There's it's in a beautiful way, in a very exciting way. There's way too many things I want to go to,
I know.
So I get that.
So that's kind of why I'm like, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It depends. And my wife the last couple of years has encouraged me to go to Furnace Fest, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because she's like, you need to go network and blah blah blah. So she might say that again this year, and I might be like, okay, cool. I just, we'll see. It has to be like oh, I cannot miss this band type of
All right,
thing.
how about this? I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit. All right. So, I would buy a box for an iPhone. No, but really, I mean, Joe and Reese had this idea of a podcast stage.
Oh, that would be cool.
Where all the different, there's many different podcasters in our community, obviously, because we met you through Furnace Fest, all that, of doing like an idea, and I feel like we should present this to the powers that be, of a podcast stage where just a little, or podcast tent or something, where people just kind of have their podcast, and you can
That's cool. That's a cool idea.
from either the merch mall, like they do, like with Super Bowl week, where these different shows are live from merch mall.
That's a great idea. I like that.
So that's an idea. I don't know if it would work this year. I don't know, but I'm going to dream big, just like I'm dreaming big. The Squad 5-0 is going to do a Bombs Over Broadway anniversary show. If you're listening, Johnny, Dad. But I think a podcast stage would be sweet, or podcast area.
I mean, I definitely that could sway me, to be honest with you. Who knows? Who's to say?
Ooh.
I mean, I definitely am in touch from time to time with Chad here and there. So we'll see. Who's to say?
Let them know. Let them know that Squad 5-0 would love to play as well.
Okay. Yep. I will. We'll do that.
I'll send you the video just if you need proof.
Hey, Chad. Oh, by the way, check this out.
Yeah. and doing that now. No.
Hey guys, I hate to bounce, but I have to go. My wife is cool. Like blowing me up.
Okay.
Not in a bad way. She's just
no,
like,
sure.
It's time.
I think we all understand.
We all do.
Completely.
You know, it goes without saying, we appreciate the community that we've built and or that's built. We didn't build it, but it's the community that has come together through all this that we're doing, and then we become a part of, and kind of just branch it off of other things. So we appreciate our overlords, especially for getting this started, as much crap as we give them. But it's really cool what's happened here to get to know Jason from Unoriginal Vinyl and to chat with him. I know that it's really fun for me, especially loving his product for so many years and then having him on and getting to know him and having so much in common, like being resident life directors, being communications majors, and all the stuff he was saying about the ums and ahs, that was ingrained into me as Kevin, we had talks about that probably in our studies, is that be mindful of that. So him talking about that brought me back, and then I just undid everything that I learned and came on this podcast. But it's cool to just have the friends that we've made along the way, and I for one, I'll get off my soapbox, but I for one don't take it for granted, and it's super cool, and glad to know each person that's come on this podcast, each person in this community, Missy, Anna, Daniel Rock, all these people that we've gotten to know along the way. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're having too much fun.
Just an attitude of gratitude, baby. That's the energy that our boy Jeremy Allen Gould brings. Old Jag, he brought it.
He did. That was fun. Do we want to knock out the voicemails now in the Brockless pod?
Because by next week at this rate we'll
have a few more.
We're gonna have a Missy. We're gonna have an Oliver. We're gonna have another, probably at some point, an Angry Roofer. I don't know if he's in there or not.
Yeah.
It's just like we'll have so many that I would love it. Actually, a compilation of all our voicemails would be a fun, told best of.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to this filthy podcast.
We do have an Angry Roofer.
And Dick Broadus says that he takes his kids to the 5-Iron show, and at one point he said his son was a little person. And then he says he's half his size. So it got me thinking, does Dick have a son who's like a little person, or he was just saying that because he's smaller? And then it got me thinking more like, do height typical human beings give birth to what we would now call little people, or can only little people give birth to little people? Like, can two, you guys know what I mean? Like, can two stature typical adults give birth to a little person, like Peter Dinklage? Or can that gene only be passed on from parents who have that gene?
Did he call after the 7 nips of the apocalypse?
I hope so.
And it sounded like he was from the car. Are you safe? Blink twice.
So apparently we're going into Science Corner.
Right. Yeah. Are we qualified here?
So I am not a scientist or a biologist, but
but hold on. First, before you answer, hey Google.
What's the politically correct?
So I'm on the Google machine right now.
Well, no, I want to hear Kevin's first. I want to hear Kevin's first.
Yeah. Sure. So, like I said, I'm not a biologist or geneticist or whatever, but yes, height typical people can have little people, and also little people, if you have 2 little people, they can also have a height typical person.
Yes, they can.
As a child.
Yes, they can. I saw the TLC show on that. Yes.
Same. That was what I was gonna surmise as well, without any expertise or knowledge, besides maybe a TLC show. And just speculating, like there's some statistics at play here, right? That
Yeah,
it
I
would
would
just
assume,
make
yeah.
sense that parents of average height would be able to have a child of less than average height,
Right.
because that would just be more common. But Google makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, did Google do you wrong? I'm sorry.
Well, I typed in,
Oh
can
no.
two
Oh no.
average
You
height.
need to ask it. You need to ask it. You need to say, "Hey Google,
This
can
is,
two average height people have
and
a
I
little
think
person?"
Google's offensive, because I typed in, can two average height, and I haven't gone any farther.
Oh
But you know
no.
how Google,
It's listening. It's
Oh,
always
yep.
well,
listening.
it's apparently
Hello
it
NSA.
starts
Hello
to
overlords.
it starts to suggest
Yeah.
search it queries.
Oh no.
The first one it suggests, and I just wanted to be clear, these are not my words. This is Google.
The
Can
words expressed here are not those of the young Jared Fries
no, this is Google.
or Jared Freeze.
None of those folks, none of those characters. But I said, can two average height, haven't gone farther. And Google has suggested, can two normal height people have a dwarf?
Oh,
Which seems offensive, Google, but that's where you
Google.
go.
Google.
Yeah.
Who,
Come on,
Microsoft
Google.
Copilot would never do that. They don't even know who they are.
Yeah. Now, the bigger question is, just a couple of weeks ago, did it answer different? And now we've removed the DAI concerns.
Hey,
Google.
hey,
Not
hey,
to wade into that territory.
hey, come on. I know it's after whatever time it is that people don't know when
I
we
know.
record, but come on.
I know. But anyway, Google, do better. Do better, Google. But I think we're in agreement that, yes, it's possible. And I don't think Brock has to answer that question.
Though
'Cause I
I
don't
think
think-
we should replay it for
Oh,
him
is
when
it?
he's on again and just see.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Save that one in the file.
Thank you for the voicemail.
Question mark? And also call
I'm
back and
Ron
let us know how
Burgundy.
you stay classy, Detroit, Michigan.
That's right.
Stay classy, Royal Oak, Michigan.
That's
Hey,
right.
Angry Roofer, let us know if you've done a wellness check on our podcast co-host, because I hear you live in the same area, after the 7 nips, and let us know. Okay.
Hey, this is Andy Myers. I was just
Andy
calling because
Myers.
I was thinking about comedy and what you guys
Oh.
like, how you grew up, and what you guys like, what got you into the comedy that you're in for today. I mean, for me, it was a weird journey. Oddly enough, it was my pastor who introduced me to Monty Python.
Ooh.
And from there, it sent me through old BBC shows like Faulty Towers and Good Neighbors. And then eventually it ended up with Saturday Night Live. And probably around 12, 13, I stayed up every Saturday with my dad to watch SNL. The tradition was he would fall asleep before the first musical performance. And so it was just me up night, probably understanding about half the skits or and the rest I just assumed were funny.
Sure.
But I loved it. And so I hope to pass that on to my 3 kids eventually. But now I was just wondering if you guys watched the SNL 50th and what kind of comedy you guys grew up with. Talk to you later.
That's awesome. Andy Myers.
Andy Myers.
Thank you. You had the best on Pardo there, Jared. That was really good. Andy, it was cool because I was actually texting him a little bit during SNL 50 because I knew we had that connection. So again, this community just shared experiences outside of ska, outside of 90s, CCM, ska, the whole deal. It's cool to have like-minded, interested people that you can talk to, new people. So Andy Myers, appreciate that. It was great talking to you during that. But that's a very thoughtful question. So if you don't mind, because it's so timely to me, I watched it live. I watched the homecoming concert. I watched the special. I'm much like Andy in this case. I started at about 12, about 13. I'd be watching it with my parents. My parents would fall asleep much sooner than the first musical guest. And I'd just be up watching and I'm watching comedy and watching people laugh and realizing that it's live. And I've been watching for 30 or so years of that 50. And last night, no, 2 nights ago, sorry, at this point, at the time of our recording, it was a masterclass of 50 years. It's a beautiful tribute. All these characters that I grew up with or watched, or they had subtle nods to it in different sketches, or Adam Sandler's song about all these people. Like, go back and just kind of watch the clips, even if you're not. I mean, I guess you kind of have to be a sort of an SNL fan and know what's going on. But for an SNL superfan, it was a beautiful tribute to such an iconic show. Like lately in many of the shows, it falls flat in different areas. Like you watch after Weekend Update, and you're like, it's kind of a throwaway at some points. But bit after bit after bit after bit after bit in this like 3.5 hour special was just heavy hitter. So I can't say enough about that. But I mean, it gets back to his question about growing up, and I want to know from you guys, because I've already said enough. How'd you start with like comedy? What because I know you all love comedy.
So yeah, for me, I remember around the house just constantly hearing, like Monty Python references.
Yeah.
Grew up watching like the Muppet Show and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Get Smart.
Yes. Oh, so good. All those
yeah.
hallways and doors.
Yep, exactly. Not only that, but with my family watching David Letterman.
Yes.
Back when he would do like the Rice Krispie suit or the
Come
Velcro
on.
suit,
The
stuff
Velcro
like
suit.
that. Yeah.
Stupid human tricks. Yeah.
Yep. All that stuff. So like, I kind of grew up with that, and then stumbling across Mystery Science Theater when I was in like fifth grade, on a youth group event in the middle of the night, because I had a hotel room to myself, so I could stay up all night watching movies, and just
Right.
stumbling across this, comedic genius that, oh man, I love comedy, just especially if it's, like the dumb slapstick stuff, like it's great, but I also love the stuff that's like smart,
Growing up, the names I remember, like early memories attached to comedians, like Ray Stevens
Oh yeah.
is like first,
So good.
and my dad had several tapes, and those were like road trip staples. Because like we were pretty strict on Christian music in the household. So, back in the 80s when you're road tripping, there's limited radio stations that you can continue the signal, right? So you're bringing tapes or whatever, but it's the whole family situation. This is pre-Walkman era, really, or like when we're really young. So everybody's listening to the same thing. So it's got to be like amenable to the whole, like all five of us in the car. Everyone has to be satisfied with the choice. And some of his music is like oldies or whatever, but like Ray Charles was one of those, like everybody was on board. My dad thought he was hilarious, or Ray Stevens. My
I hear
dad
that.
thought he was hilarious, and then
Ray Charles was funny too. I mean,
Ray Charles is good, but so that one, Mark Lowry was an early one because
yes, same.
Yeah.
he came and performed at my grandparents' church in like, I don't know, 86, 87, 88, something
The
like that.
old sanctuary.
Yes. when he was like would sing gospel tunes and do his comedy bit and like intersperse the two. So that was a big deal as a kid. And then Jerry Clower, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. He's a Southern comedian. Like he's from Mississippi too. Like I can't remember what little town in Mississippi, but I distinctly remember going to the North Carolina State Fair, probably around the same time, 85, 86, 87, and he was performing at the Tobacco Barn, and like that exhibit in the Ag Hall or like over there, and it was Jerry Clower, and we had tapes of
That's
him
the South.
too. Yeah, 100% like pure Southern comedy and like church humor. And so those were like, so we had comedy tapes. of people doing bits
Yep.
and things like
Yep.
that were normal. But it didn't really do SNL or the late night talk shows. Those were too crass for our household, like for
Okay.
us kids. So that was a no from my parents. Because if there's any profanity, it was over, or anything like sexually suggestive at all, it was like turned
Yeah.
off immediately. So the lines were pretty like even Ray Stevens could wander into that territory of like, I'm not sure if this is appropriate for kids.
Sure.
So, but as I got older, kind of went to college, that was late 90s. So SNL, people who had been on SNL, I wasn't a regular religious watcher of the show,
Yeah.
but those were the biggest comedians in film too,
Oh
right?
yeah. Because they all spawned into film careers, right?
Yeah, it was Chris
Or
Farley and it was David
shows.
Spade and it was Will Ferrell and it was like
Hmm.
all of those, Chris Rock. And so like I have DVDs that I remember when they used to sell like
Oh,
the
the
best
best of Will
of.
Ferrell, the best of Chris
Oh,
Rock. Yeah.
I've got 5 or 8 of those, I think, still right
Yeah.
over there.
Same.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And then Tim Meadows, like all the movies, like so
Ooh, a
their
lady.
bits, a lady. And then what was his zoo bit? The zookeeper, Brian
that was
Fellows.
Tracy
This is
Morgan.
Brian Fellows or Tracy
Tracy
Morgan.
Morgan,
This is
yeah.
Brian
I'm Brian Fellows. I'll
So-
tell you. Yeah. I'll tell you a story about Tracy Morgan in a minute, but continue. Yeah.
No, but then like those figures became prominent, and then like I found my way into Mitch Hedberg and some others in college.
Yeah.
But that's what I remember from like childhood on
That's
into
cool.
early adulthood. Yeah.
And your point about
and the Brian
Oh, go ahead.
Fellows
Yeah.
bit, like
love that
whenever we were
character.
talking about, Brock being a celebrity, and I kept making the like, do you know who I am?
Yeah, no, I caught it. I was with you. I'm Brock Dittis. Yeah. And I said it once and I didn't get a response, so I'm just like, I'm Brock Dittis, and I'm like, but I might not have been looking down at the right square. I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. But I was with you on that. Yeah.
You mentioned, listening to comedy in the radio with the family while you're driving around, and I totally forgot to mention Prairie Home Companion.
Yes.
Was something that we would listen to.
I was about to bring
Hence
that
the
up.
name of our show,
Yep.
because that was something that when we were trying to come up with the name for the show, kind of through I forget how, but somehow Prairie Home Companion came up, and
Right.
we were all talking about how we all used to listen to it. So
Hmm.
here we are.
There we are.
That also reminds me from NPR, Car Talk.
Car Talk.
Like,
Yeah.
do you remember that show?
I do.
The brothers that would give car
I
advice,
do.
but they were comedians. So that was one like I would listen to
Yep.
me and my brother and my dad on Saturday mornings. And none of
Yeah.
us, like my dad was not a car guy. No one cared about cars at all or fixing cars, and I still don't.
Mhm.
But I loved cars. Some of those NPR and Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Wait, Don't Tell Me
I didn't even think
Now,
about
yeah.
that. Like those because they were kind of safe too. Like it was that clean, it was different kind of comedy, but I loved the
Mhm.
Saturday morning. I still do the Saturday morning NPR lineup.
Same. Yep. Same.
Great.
And
Yeah.
and for me, like I launched into SNL because I'm so passionate about it. But for me, like growing up, it was Mark Lowry, it was Mike Warrenke,
Mhm.
it was you can't talk about him now, but back then it was Bill Cosby and the
Yeah,
Cosby Show.
right.
It was pivotal
The
television.
Noah
It was-
bit. Yeah.
and yeah, what's a cubit? I still quote it because it was such an iconic bit. Right? Like
Mhm.
Fat Albert, all that stuff. Back then,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of that whole thought of like taking away from the person and just the comedy. That's why, I mean, it's a side note, but I think of the Cosby Show and how great a program that was. And now that it's been canceled because of
Yeah.
justifiably some bad things, but what that does to the rest of the great cast and comedians that were on that show,
Mhm.
it's sad to me because it was such a pivotal part of my childhood, and just all his records, all that the stuff that he produced. But like you're right, Prairie Home Companion, that we would sit around and either in the car, it was appointment radio. You talk about appointment television, it was appointment radio. We would listen to That's the News from Lake Wobegon. Like we would listen to the commercials, the live commercials they would do. Fred Newman, who was in Mickey Mouse Club, but he also went on, or before and after, was the guy who did all the vocal effects for Prairie Home Companion. I wanted to be him growing up because he was so good at what he did. To make a live radio program come alive, and the other people, it wasn't just him, but the other people that were part of it. It was that audio palette that brought to your ears because there was no television. I mean, sure, they would broadcast live on Disney later on. I don't know if you ever watched any of that.
No.
But we would watch, and the great part, my dad would like sync it up, so they'd air it live on Disney, and he'd sync it up with the radio. It was cool.
Oh,
It
it's
was
perfect.
That's some memories I haven't thought about in years, and it's just all together, listening first, then realizing it's on Disney, watching it. It was very cool. So that growing up with all that was amazing.
And you're right about the Cosby Show. Like when you started, like that was, I mean, that the whole nation, right? Like everybody watched that, and it was
Right.
the funniest thing you'd ever seen.
Skidly-bop-bop-a-doo-bop. Right, like yeah.
Well, then like Different Strokes was kind of
Different Strokes, yep.
and then but thinking now on TGIF, Friday night on ABC, all of those, Family Matters, Step by Step, Boy Meets World,
Boy Meets
like
World. I still listen to Pod Meets World because of how
yeah,
much impact. Yeah.
yeah. I was kind of thinking of individual comedians, but those shows were such a big part of comedy.
Yeah,
And that
Urkel,
Friday
did
night,
I do that? Yeah.
yeah. Well, you got a 2 hour block on Friday, like that was your Friday night.
Right.
Like as a kid, like that's what you were doing, and for us, like that was acceptable. The whole family could sit down and watch that straight
Right.
through. Everyone was interested enough. The kids were we were really stoked because that was about as like the outside world as we got exposed
Right.
to. That was the most normal thing we did, probably. But that was a huge deal of the TGIF lineup. I mean, for years, right? Was
Right.
it 7 to 9 or whatever, 8 to 10,
Yeah,
whatever
so
the time
it was
it was.
8 o'clock time frame. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
and then late. Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, but just like I mean, that was such a weekly for years of that was the routine. And I don't think there's versions
Right.
of that now because you binge stuff.
Right. Right. Well, exactly.
Like my kids don't watch that like in that way.
TJF. I just listened to the Pod Meets World podcast where they talked to the dude that originated TJF, and it's like,
Oh wow.
and it wasn't. Thank God it's Friday. It was. Oh gosh, I just listened to the episode, but it's something fun. But go listen to that Pod Meets World episode, the most recent one. It's so good, where they talk to him about that. But it was appointment television. You everybody would be around together. Like we would be watching Seinfeld. You know, Seinfeld. We got to give props to them. Seinfeld was great. Letterman. I'd stay up. Letterman was my original comedian. I would stay up watching David Letterman religiously because the stuff that he brought to the table and the bits that were off the wall. Conan O'Brien. Conan
Yes.
O'Brien is
I
a
was a
comedic
Conan
hero.
guy,
of mine.
yeah.
And the great part is like Letterman for him was a hero. And like Jimmy Kimmel now, Letterman was a hero. You see all these people that came from the comedians before them, and you can see their style from that. So I love David Letterman. I wish I had gotten to see him and the stuff he's doing now. It's just, I'm glad he's still going. Conan O'Brien, I'm stoked for the Oscars. I'm stoked for everything he does. The year 2000, like all that stuff.
Yep.
Triumph the Insult, Comic Dog,
Yeah.
all these things that spawned off of, Lorne Michaels and all these, other visionaries. So cool.
I will say I seen Jerry Seinfeld live once.
Mm.
One of the most disappointing entertainment experiences of my entire life.
That was Tracy Morgan for me.
Like I was in Gainesville, so it had to be 2006, 2007. It was like when he came back after Seinfeld and did a first tour of stand-up comedy. Like he hadn't done stand-up in forever, and it was his comeback. And it was it was boring. The jokes were bad. And it was like a pretty big built-up thing the way I remember it, of like
Right.
Seinfeld is back in his original form, like where he like made his self, and he's gonna do it, and he's so good at it. Because that was the whole thing. Is like he's a genius.
He's so good. Right.
And I don't remember much of the whole performance, other than like him making what's the deal with these cell phones? And it was like, it was one of those. It was like, oh, you sound old because that joke was done many, many years ago. Like we've moved past the oddity of the cell phone.
Right.
And it was like he was way behind and just out of touch. He sounded old. Like he didn't know what was going on, completely irrelevant, instead of like commentary on the here and now. It was like, oh, you missed the boat on that joke, buddy. Like it was done a long time ago and no one laughs anymore. And his whole set was kind of like that. It was a bummer because he paid a lot for those tickets too.
Sure. And he's kind of rebounded, I think, a little bit from that. But
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, that
I
was
was so
Tracy.
excited for it too. So excited to go.
Well, the same feeling. That was Tracy Morgan for me because that was like my SNL era as far as when I could understand jokes, like really understand
Yeah.
jokes and the humor behind it. And there's Brian, I'm Brian Fellows, like all Safari Planet, all that stuff that he would do. We took dates. A buddy of mine, we both took dates, and he's just calling out every person in the audience and like F this, F that, and very vulgar. And I'm like, I'm here with a girl that I want to possibly date. But now she feels uncomfortable,
Mm.
and we both loved SNL. So she didn't hold it against any of us, but like, you feel uncomfortable. And growing up in a Christian, uh, going to Christian college and doing that very conservative, much more conservative than I am now, it was awkward, And I love that he's come so far too, like from his accident, and now he's still doing it. Love Tracy Morgan. I mean, if you ever listen to this podcast, I love you. It just was awkward in that moment.
I'm sure he's a regular listener.
Yes,
I just assume he is.
Yeah. I just want to put that caveat in there. So yeah. But I love seeing him on SNL 50. Like just it was cool. Yeah.
I'll say the most awkward comedy experience. I saw Bob Saget live once.
Oh, you think he's the Full House character, didn't you?
No. I knew,
Okay.
I knew, but
Right,
it's still like, this was also in Gainesville. He played the O-Dome, like the basketball arena on campus, and it was free, which is why me and a buddy, like two buddies, were like, free Bob Saget? Want to go hear filthy Danny Tanner? So that was like completely we know, like, yeah, we're going to go hear Danny Tanner say some terrible things.
Right.
But we're not going to pay for it. And so we pre-gamed across the street. And I remember ordering because it was like right across from the arena. There's like a strip in Gainesville's Midtown where all the college kids go drink. And so we went into a bar over there, and we're like, let's order a pitcher. And then my other buddy comes up with the genius idea. What if we each ordered a pitcher? No, you're like,
those
doing
days.
it.
All right.
Yeah. So we got 3 pitchers for 3 dudes, consumed our pitchers quickly, and went and saw Bob Saget be absolutely filthy, and it fit. It seemed appropriate. It seemed right.
Right.
And he said the things he says, but it's one of those, like, it's coming, and you're still like, oh, you said it out loud to all of us. But it plays really well on a college campus, I'll tell you that.
Oh, for sure. It's not AFV and Full House Bob Saget, for sure.
No. But I will say that one song he like, the Danny Tanner was not gay or whatever song.
Oh, yeah.
But when he was like, he says something about like derogatory about like how much Full House is like corny, and then he's like, but fuck you, made lots of money. That is so funny.
Oh, that's so good.
It was funny then, it's funny now. R.I.P.
R.I.P. for sure. Oh my goodness.
Bob Saget.
And your comment, Kevin, about R.I.P. Bob Saget. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to just put that off. But your comment about Monty Python. I got to know Monty Python in college. I remember going down to Delaware with my old radio co-host, and I bought Monty Python and the Holy Grail so I could own it on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
That's just iconic. We would watch that over and over and over and over in college. I loved it so much. And bought, like, I have a couple vinyl records of their live stuff, and it's just Monty Python is they're comedic geniuses as well. Like, just I can't go without mentioning them.
Yeah, I had all the albums on like cassette. I think most of them I've replaced with the CD version.
Beautiful.
I've got the Flying Circus box set. Same thing, like had it on VHS, upgraded it to DVD. So good. That's a brand of comedy that I wish. Well, no, I can't say that. I it's still going through all their their influence on, but I just wish them were timeless. Like I wish they were still. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish we could keep them at the age when they were making that. But that's a whisper. So good. Andy Myers, this has been
look what he did. Thank you,
Andy Myers. Look at what you've done. You
just turned this into a 3-part episode.
I know this is actually going to be a part, like Andy
just gave Kevin extra work.
Well, hey, get us to 50.
One last one.
Yep.
Oh man.
Hey, this is Andy. I
Oh, he's
just
back.
finished
Hi,
the
Andy.
7 Nips of the Apocalypse episode, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to show all 3 of my kids this to deter them from ever touching alcohol. I think it's going to be pretty effective. So, I guess I'm looking forward to Joe's stool sample episode next. I gotta
Andy Myers. Hey, thanks for a 2-timer. That's I just finished the episode today because of such a packed weekend. And you're right. That right there with Joe swearing at Reese, which brought me life, which might not be good for your 3 kids, but maybe it will be. That's your parenting.
The
It will
conviction he
deter.
said that over and over again, I thought was so funny when he told Reese that. I thought it was great.
It's so
and
good.
And the
I'm
hyper focus just on the exotic meat website.
what I
I
love.
tuned out at that point, but I loved it.
Oh, I was locked in. I'm watching.
Oh yeah.
And
I was watching them, but I wasn't paying attention to what they were like, the
But-
meats they were saying, but I was watching their reactions.
But long before that part of it, like I'm watching and I just think this is great content. I was like, this
it's
is
so good.
fantastic. I appreciate them going through the pain and suffering on our behalf.
Oh,
I
my
appreciate their commitment to follow through on a foolhardy statement and a promise that they should have just disregarded years ago.
A pint
But-
of liquor.
It's so dumb and it's fantastic. And I'm watching it going, oh, this is totally worth what we pay for. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
Joe's like,
I
they're
took
going to hate
notes.
this. They're not going to. And I'm like, no, Joe, you're missing it. No.
Joe, no.
This is prime Patreon content. Well worth the money. I'm not asking you to do more of this because that seems unusually cruel. But nothing but gold in this episode.
Oh,
Appreciate it fully.
That being said, if people want to give us money, I'll buy something off of that exotic meats website and I will
100%.
eat it on our podcast.
We'll make a stew. Yeah.
I'll say it now. I know Mandarin has brought this up. They want to, that we do this. I will do the 7 nips if people send me money for those nips.
I'm just trying to figure out. I feel like both of those guys have a pretty high tolerance for trash consumption of like awful tasting things.
You're right.
So
I'm
the
not sure I can take it.
So the fact that this was so stomach churning to those two
I don't think I could take
who
it.
are willing to tackle a
Yeah.
lot of things, I'm like, what could it possibly? But now I'm like very curious of like, what could it taste like mixing liquors together that's so bad versus all the other things that they've eaten with no emotional response? Like, why is it so bad? I kind of want to know the distinct pain.
No, I need to clarify. I don't want a pint of it. I don't. I am
Gotta microdose it.
my
Maybe some microbites.
maybe some microbites.
Yeah.
My Crohn's. I don't want to pay that emergency room bill. Okay,
No.
so I will taste it, but I will not do a pint of it. Is what I should say there.
Because it's a cheap drink for as many alcohols are going in. Because those are what, $1 or $2 each,
Right.
50 cents,
4
75.
liquors. There's 4 liquors.
Yeah.
I do want to say welcome to hour number 1 of our 3-hour recap of the 7 nips of the apocalypse. And if we do not do more than 3 hours, and then I love how hyper focused Reese was, and he didn't even respond to it. And Joe's like, "Wow, no response to that. No response to the squids." He goes, "I heard you. The exotic meats." It was just-
he wanted some of those meats, man.
and he's like, "Oh, no gassing up the squids," and old angry roofer's ready to call in. I thought Joe.
He should have called in during the episode.
That's what I mean. I thought Joe was gonna be like,
Yes.
Heidi, give me your phone. like call into the squids. Oh, that would have been great.
Oh,
Oh man, it and the fact that he said it was like it tasted Listerini. At one point, like I'm thinking, man, is that what Listerine is?
I want to
Used
know
toothpaste.
that non-alcoholic Negroni from Pathfinder
Oh.
that I drank
Oh,
is
yeah.
the worst flavored beverage I've like. I could not. So part of me wants to be like, I bought a 4-pack of those little cans, so I
Oh,
have
come
3
on.
more. I
Oh,
couldn't
no.
finish one.
Oh,
I
send them to
kind of
us.
want
I
to
think
mail
that's
it
what I hear.
to. Yeah, I kind of want to mail them out. Like you guys could do it, or I could send them to those two and be like, "How's this rank on the
Yeah,
7, like from a failure puddle to the 7 nips? This is the new out
That's the new
cocktail scale,
scale,
right? Failure puddle's really good, 7 nips really bad. Put this non-alcoholic Negroni because it is disgusting,
all right. Hear me out.
irredeemably disgusting.
Hear me out.
Yes, sir.
This is very quick. Joe and Reese, if you're listening, Joe, I know you are. Reese, well, we'll see. Crossover episode. You mail it out to all of us, or we pick it up, and we all try it together.
Okay.
I mean, when we come on during the family time, because we know family's not going
Right.
to come, like.
Well, and
the
this is non-alcoholic too, so we don't even have to like worry
No, Brock
about
could be
that
included,
component.
right? Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's what I mean. Like, this is a great pickle and boot shop network building exercise. Since we are under their umbrella, Ella AAA, it would be a great team building, for whatever week they do the family, because we are family.
Yeah.
All of my Joe Reese's and me.
Because I can normally drink a like not pleasant drink. Like it doesn't
Okay.
like it's hard to come across a drink that is so bad you're just like, I gotta pour this out. I can't
Sure.
finish
Yeah.
it.
Especially if you pay for it,
Unless it's like an alcohol thing where you just don't want any more. Yeah. And these
Right.
like non-alcoholic cocktails are not cheap thing. I mean, it wasn't super expensive, but it's like $5 a can.
Can I
Right.
ask, are you a fan of a Negroni in alcoholic form?
Yeah.
I don't. I see. The
And-
Negroni's not my speed.
Well, and that's why it bothered me so much is like I pretty much like booze.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
other
right.
people are
Me-
like,
me-
oh, tequila, I can't do it. I'm like, I love tequila. Give me mezcal. Gin, I
tequila and
hate
I
it.
do not
Give
get
me
along.
gin. Love gin.
That's another story for another
Vodka
time.
seems pointless to me, but I'll drink it. I just don't know why people do.
Right.
Like bourbon, any whiskey, scotch, peated kind, all of it. I love it. So I'm not usually dissuaded by liquor. But
Sure.
and like this was bitter, but I drink coffee black. I love a really bitter IPA. I'm not afraid of bitter.
So that makes sense. I don't like coffee.
Yeah, but this was like the bitter it just lingers and it gets worse. Like it never gets to a point where you're like, oh, that wasn't bad. Every sip was so bad. It's an awful drink.
Okay.
And so I was very disappointed because I'm kind of like interested in a a non-alcoholic cocktail that's pleasant or enjoyable. And they're hard to find, I think.
That backs up my point. Joe, Reese, yeah, I know you're listening. Let's do this all together. Whether Jared sends it out to us or whether we go to the store and pick it up, that would be fun. Like, it's not alcoholic. So Joe, you can work the next day. Reese,
Exactly.
you can work the next day. Like that.
It's just unpleasant.
I just feel like we need to share in some unpleasantness together.
I like this.
Let's drink till we fall down. Let's drink, I'll see you on the ground. Let's
Yeah,
drink,
and at least it doesn't smell 1,000 times worse than it tastes, like Heidi and Kara said. And by the way, can I mention how cool was it to see Heidi and Kara together, all 4 of them on one screen? That was really cool. It was a great, beautiful podcast moment. Talk about 50 years of SNL. That was our SNL 50 right there.
Update the fandom wiki.
Oh my goodness! And by the way, if you know, we do have a fandom. We have a wiki, so it's in our social media. So go and update your favorite moments of any of the podcasts.
Please update it so I don't have to.
I know.
Bingo.
I'm working on that. I'm sorry.
till we fall down. Let's drink, I'll see you on the ground. Let's drink.